My country, and in particular my state, has stopped asking, how stupid are we? And started asking, how stupid can we be? We see that all over politics right now, especially on the right, as has consistently been the case for at least the last 50 years. Today's Republicans do not want everyone to be educated, only those who can afford it. And part of the strategy there to keep the poor people in their place is to divert funds from public schools into private schools that don't have to live up to those same standards and are not held to the same restrictions either. So, for example, Christian schools can teach creationism where public schools are not legally allowed to do so. But with 20% of our teachers being creationists, they still mislead the students that way anyway. So the rich people get more government funding on top of tuition, and they get to teach whatever they want, while public schools have to do more for many more students with a lot less money. Thus, the public schools are forced into a position where they underperform by design, which not only cheats the poor students, but that financially imposed performance is used to justify and perpetuate the cycle. See, look how poorly the public schools are doing. Our charter schools are doing much better. Well, of course, you gave them all the money. So, you see how that works. And then, even in the public schools, which are supposed to be teaching actual factual science, sex, and social studies, even there are so many religious extremists all over the board that students still aren't going to get a proper education because the board only wants the next generation to be obedient minions who don't understand how anything really is and won't question authority either. Today's example is an underfunded school district in Houston who decided to deal with their ever tightening budget by deleting whole chapters of a dozen or so textbooks, eliminating, of course, certain topics, inconvenient topics, things that they didn't want to teach anyway and were looking for a reason to get rid of, like evolution, anthropogenic climate change, and the civil rights movement, which these idiots have confused with critical race theory.
Students in the Cypress Fairbanks Independent School District will not learn about the benefits of vaccines or cultural diversity next year. The school board also dropped climate change from the curriculum because conservatives also found that too controversial. No one should be surprised. If you backtrack along the money trail, you'll find the 6 conservatives who control the 7-member board are backed by evangelicals who see political activism as a form of spiritual warfare. They believe they are doing God's work against unbelievers who are Satan's unwitting accomplices. The Sci-Fair ringleader is Natalie Kagan Blasingame. She has long rejected the separation of church and state and advocates teaching about Jesus in public classrooms. She and other conservatives are backed by Christian nationalists who insist the Bible trumps the Constitution. Dozens of Christian nationalist groups are organizing across the country. A coalition of them known as the Remnant Alliance focuses on school boards in Texas and across the nation. The Alliance's vision is to, quote, see the body of Christ awaken across our republic, exercise their leadership role to influence others for God, and in turn restore the Judeo-Christian foundation that brought America's great blessings and welfare, unquote. These groups are winning off-year elections when voter turnout is low. To learn more about them, check out my latest column. There are links in the comments.
I put those links in the description as well. Religious right Republicans are relentless, always trying to censor the mainstream consensus of experts to promote political propaganda instead, like the lies of creationism and the lie of American exceptionalism. Conservative Christian creationist religious fundamentalists have tried for decades to wage a culture war wherein they can pervert science and distort history in Orwellian fashion. Because, as Orwell said in 1984, who controls the past controls the future. Who controls the present controls the past. So if they own all the school boards, and they already do, then they can impose their ideology, wherein suddenly the founders were all Christians and our secular government was never secular and it wasn't based on Greek democracy or scholars of the Enlightenment. No, suddenly John Locke and Thomas Paine fade from McFly's photo because then the history will read that the Constitution was based on a covenant between God and Moses and that we were always a theocracy somehow, where what we used to recognize as slaves suddenly become immigrant workers from Africa who benefited by their bondage by learning about Jesus. They don't want students to know the real history of this country, nor of the world, nor of the reality of anything, really, because all of that runs counter to their religious beliefs. And I doubt I'll ever understand why that is. But someone recently tried to explain it to me, saying that these people, these politically motivated religious extremists who pretend as if they're in a culture war, that they may be perfectly able to acknowledge the facts, but they simply choose not to. And I've had a few people that I've debated with, like on these boards and such, who have admitted to that they know what the truth is, but they want to teach students something else because they said it's important that they believe this other thing that the teacher then knows is not true, but they're going to teach it anyway. They're okay with lying. They understand exactly what they're doing, and that what they're teaching is not true. But they imagine that the ends justify the means, and they imagine that students will somehow be better people if they believe whatever they're told simply because they were told to, rather than trying to understand or improve their understanding. And I'm told that at the heart of this dishonest distortion is that they think students should be deluded into believing in a creator because they think that without that, there's no purpose or morality. Of course, we have grounds for morality based on our anthropology and our evolution as a social species, dependent on a society that in turn also depends on us to cohabitate productively. We don't actually get morality from anybody's religion. You know, if you think you're moral just because you would be savaging everybody else if it wasn't for your fear of punishment, no, then you're not a moral person. You're an immoral person on a leash. Most of us can maintain without that ridiculous threat. But the weird thing is all these people who want a purpose for their existence. I just don't get that. I don't need that. Uh, I don't need a meaning of life. And if I did, the one they're offering is illogical, irrational, philosophical nonsense, and obviously can't be true. What they're promising does not give me any sense of meaning at all. But this, I'm told, goes to the heart of all belief in creator gods. Believers get their purpose from believing that there is a purpose and that there's no purpose without a creator God. So most of them would never admit that they create the creator in their own mind. You know, a few have admitted that to me, but most will not. And my critics then, the ones who are trying to be constructive, tell me that you can't have a rational, logical conversation with someone who is irrational and illogical. So why try? Now, my career up to this point has been I've long given up on trying to directly change the mind of the person I'm talking to. But the periphery, the people, the onlookers can see, you know, who's got the goods and who's full of shit. So I mean that's why I keep doing what I'm doing, because not everybody is batshit crazy. But I'm told that the people I'm arguing with directly, they only want to force you to believe how they believe, without question, reservation, or reason, without logic, without rational thought. They rely totally on their faith, because they want conviction, not understanding. They don't want to understand how things are. They don't want to entertain the idea that, hey, I could be wrong about something, and then if you find the error, you've thus improved your situation. You understand better now than you did before. But that's not what they want. They want to jump directly to certainty. And the very fact that scientists will be honest enough that they won't say that something is true until or unless they can show the truth of it. They won't say that anything is probably true until they can show a probability. And when things are not certain, when there's a number of options, they'll say probably this based on that it's probably this based on these other factors, because science is an investigation, not a belief system. And so they're trying to figure things out. And believers don't want to figure things out. They want to know already. They want to know everything they need to know without admitting that they don't know a damn thing. And these people understand. Well, they think that there must be a creator, and without that, there's no purpose. And they understand that the argument for first cause is a fallacy. We know that. They know that. Deep down, they know that. But they're going to hold on to their irrational beliefs because without it, they feel empty and alone, and that scares the shit out of them. This is what my constructive critics tell me. Thus, the religion, like the politics of the religious right, is based on fear, largely on fear, which, ironically, the fear comes from ignorance. And that fear would go away if they learned how to think and understand things better than they refuse to do right now.